You believe you know the story of Jericho, of the walls that crumbled and the city that fell. But what if the true shock lay not in the seismic collapse of stone, but in the radical, utterly defiant act of one woman who dared to stand against the very tide of divine judgment? You are there, perched on the sun-baked ramparts of Jericho, the acrid scent of fear and desert dust thick in the air. The whispers of the approaching Israelite host, a disciplined, relentless force, have snaked through every alley, every marketplace, chilling the blood of even the most hardened warrior. You feel the tremor in the ground, not yet from their trumpets, but from the unseen weight of their God, a deity whose power has shattered nations and parted seas. This city, your city, teeming with pagan rites and the echoes of ancient depravity, stands on the precipice of utter annihilation, a testament to centuries of abhorrent practices. Yet amidst this decreed destruction, an enigma emerges. Why was a harlot, an outsider, a Canaanite woman named Rahab, not merely spared, but woven into the sacred tapestry of Israel, into the very lineage of kings? One is compelled to ask if the true miracle wasn't just the walls falling, but the astonishing, subversive grace that reached beyond them. So, as we prepare to uncover these timeless truths, if you find value in this journey, consider leaving a like to support the channel. It makes a huge difference. What are your initial thoughts on Rahab's role in this pivotal moment? Share your own insights on this mystery in the comments below. Now, still your heart and open your mind. The veil of history is about to be torn away. Our revelation begins. You stand on the very edge of history, witnessing the final, desperate days of an ancient world about to be swept away. Jericho, a city of immense strategic importance and undeniable wealth, a veritable jewel of the Jordan Valley, was not merely a military target. She was a spiritual fortress, a bastion of Canaanite idolatry, her very foundations steeped in the abominations that grieved the Most High. You can almost taste the ritualistic smoke, smell the blood of infant sacrifices offered to the malevolent deities of Baal and Molech. Practices so depraved they cry out from the very earth beneath your feet. Josephus, the ancient historian, vividly describes Jericho not only for its formidable fortifications, but for its opulent palm groves and the abundance of its fertile plains, making it a prize, yes, but also a symbol of the rampant wickedness that characterized the indigenous population. For centuries, the land had groaned under the weight of this spiritual pollution, and now the appointed time of reckoning had arrived. Yet, within these very walls, in a house built into the city's defensive structure, two figures, cloaked in the shadows of night, seek refuge. You feel the palpable tension as you watch them. Two Israelite spies, sent by Joshua himself, their mission to scout the city before the final assault. They are the epitome of the chosen people, emissaries of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they are hiding in the dwelling of a woman who, by every societal and religious metric of the time, should have been their enemy. You feel the throb of her fear, the cold grip of apprehension, yet beneath it, a nascent, almost unbelievable glimmer of hope. Rahab, a woman whose profession placed her outside the conventional bounds of respectability, possesses a spiritual insight that eludes the mightiest kings and wisest elders of her own people. You hear her words, raw with conviction, as she declares, "I know that the Lord has given you the land, and that your terror has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of the Jordan, to Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed." You realize, with a profound shift in perspective, that her declaration is not born of mere fear, but of true faith, a recognition of Yahweh's undeniable power, a power so overwhelming that it transcends tribal loyalties and personal safety. She had listened, she had processed, and in the cacophony of fear and pagan incantations, she had heard the distant, thunderous voice of the one true God. This was no casual acknowledgement. It was a radical, life-altering confession of allegiance. You witness her bold protection of the spies, risking her own life and the lives of her entire household against the king's men who sought them. Every instinct for self-preservation, every cultural norm, every expectation of a Canaanite woman in that era screamed for her to betray them. Yet she chose otherwise. Her request, delivered with breathtaking audacity, reverberates through the small, shadowed room. "Now therefore, I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token, and spare my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death." You are struck by the purity of her plea, not merely for herself, but for her entire family, demonstrating a profound sense of familial loyalty woven into her fabric of emerging faith. The spies, bound by their oath and their understanding of divine justice tempered with mercy, agree. They instruct her to tie a scarlet cord in her window, a visible sign, a beacon of mercy in the coming storm of destruction. This scarlet thread, you understand, is far more than a mere identifier. It is a profound symbol, echoing the blood on the doorposts in Egypt, a mark of protection, a testament to a covenant made in the shadow of impending judgment. It is a prototype, perhaps, of a scarlet thread of redemption woven through all of history. As you reflect on this extraordinary moment, you are forced to consider the profound implications of Rahab's choice. For centuries, the faithful have wrestled with the question of whether salvation is exclusively for the chosen few, or if divine grace can truly reach beyond the rigid boundaries of ethnicity and lineage. Rahab, a Samaritan before the Samaritans, a Gentile before the Gentiles were fully embraced, stands as a living answer to this question. She represents the audacious truth that faith, true, active faith, can erupt in the most unexpected places, in the hearts of those deemed unclean or unworthy by human standards. Her story challenges the very notion of who is in and who is out in the divine economy. Josephus expands on the cultural context, describing the widespread terror among the Canaanites due to the Israelites' reputation, yet Rahab's response goes beyond mere terror. It is a recognition of God's sovereignty. Midrashic traditions, though not canonical, paint a picture of Rahab as a woman of sharp intellect and discerning spirit, capable of grasping theological truths that eluded others. They suggest her conversion to monotheism was not superficial, but deeply rooted. You see her, not as a desperate survivor, but as a proactive agent of faith, seizing the opportunity to align herself and her family with the unstoppable will of the Almighty, even when it meant utterly disavowing the gods and customs of her birthright. Her act was not one of convenience, but of conviction, a testament to a spirit awakened. It was a choice that would reverberate through generations, shaping a destiny far grander than she could ever have imagined, a covenant forged in the crucible of destruction. The earth itself groans. You stand amidst the cacophony of sound, the deafening blast of trumpets, the thunderous roar of a multitude, and then the impossible, terrifying groan as the massive, impenetrable walls of Jericho begin to heave, to crack, to crumble into a monstrous avalanche of dust and stone. The air fills with the shriek of dying men, the crash of collapsing structures, the screams of a city condemned. Amidst this cataclysmic descent into chaos, you fix your gaze upon a specific section of the wall, a house marked by a splash of scarlet, a vibrant, defiant thread against the backdrop of destruction. Miraculously, impossibly, that section of the wall, the very house where Rahab and her family, huddled in trembling faith, remains standing, a lone island of salvation in a sea of judgment. The Israelite warriors, a relentless tide of divine retribution, surge into the ruined city, their swords flashing, their purpose clear. But as they storm through the rubble, they carry out the precise instructions given by Joshua. Go into the harlot's house and bring out the woman and all that she has as you swore to her. You witness the awe on their faces, the recognition of a miracle within a miracle, as they guide Rahab, her father, her mother, her brothers, her sisters, and all their relatives out through the devastation. They are led to a place outside the camp of Israel, a strategic and symbolic separation, a period of purification and transition before full assimilation. This initial segregation was not punitive, you understand, but a necessary step for those who had lived their entire lives steeped in paganism, a period of cleansing and instruction before they could truly enter into the covenant community of the Most High. It was a space for their former identities to shed, and new ones, forged in faith, to be embraced. You observe their uneasy integration, the quiet scrutiny they must have faced from a people so fiercely protective of their lineage and newfound land. The law, after all, was explicit in its commands against intermarriage with the Canaanites, against adopting their customs, against defiling the sacred boundaries of the chosen people. Yet here stood Rahab, a living paradox, a testament to God's subversive grace that defied human expectation. She was a Canaanite, yes, but one who had actively chosen Yahweh. She was a former harlot, yet her faith had shone brighter than that of many within Israel itself. The initial period, outside the camp, would have been one of intense learning for Rahab and her family. They would have been instructed in the Mosaic law, in the history of Israel, in the true nature of the God they had chosen to serve. This was not a passive reception. It was an active theological education, a profound cultural immersion designed to transform them from within. Josephus, in his writings, touches upon the meticulous nature of Israelite purity laws and their strict adherence to separating themselves from the idolatrous practices of other nations. For Rahab to be accepted, especially into the tribe of Judah, the royal line speaks volumes about the divine recognition of her profound faith. Midrashic sources, though extra-biblical, often praise Rahab for her piety, stating that she converted truly and completely, and that her faith was of such quality that it overshadowed her past. They even suggest that she became a prophetess, though this is not found in canonical scripture. You are compelled to ponder the immense social courage it must have taken for her to fully embrace this new identity, to shed generations of ingrained belief for an unseen God who had just obliterated her homeland. The true marvel, however, unfolds as Rahab is not merely tolerated but fully embraced, culminating in her marriage to Salmon, a prominent man from the tribe of Judah. You witness this union, a profound symbol of the covenant's expansive nature. Salmon, a son of Nahshon, who was a prince of Judah during the wilderness wanderings, represents the very heart of the Israelite leadership, a man deeply rooted in the lineage of the Abrahamic promise. This marriage was not a casual affair. It was a divinely orchestrated act, integrating a former enemy, a woman from a condemned people, into the very bloodstream of God's chosen nation. You are forced to consider the immense theological implications. That God's plan of redemption was never meant to be confined by human-made walls or ethnic boundaries, that His grace could reach into the darkest corners and transform the most unlikely of individuals into instruments of His divine purpose. How did a society so intensely focused on purity and separation reconcile the inclusion of such an outsider, a Canaanite woman who had once been a harlot, into their most sacred lineage? The answer lies in the profound theological truth that conversion, when truly sincere and demonstrated by acts of faith, transcends all former identity. Rahab's faith was her passport, her commitment to Yahweh her new citizenship. The union of Rahab and Salmon gives rise to a son named Boaz. You see in Boaz the living embodiment of this radical inclusion, this divine tapestry woven from disparate threads. He is a testament to grace, a bridge between the old world of Canaanite idolatry and the new world of covenant faithfulness. Boaz, whose very name means "in him is strength," will himself become a pillar of righteousness, a man of profound integrity and generosity. His story, interwoven with the destiny of Ruth, another Gentile woman who embraced the God of Israel, further amplifies this theme of boundless grace and inclusion. One is forced to consider how Boaz's upbringing, with a mother who was a convert from a condemned city, might have shaped his character, his empathy, his profound understanding of hospitality and redemption that he later extends to Ruth. Did Rahab impart lessons of faith learned in the crucible of judgment? Did her testimony of God's power and mercy shape his worldview, instilling in him a compassion that transcended the rigid social norms of his time? For centuries, theologians have wrestled with the question of whether Rahab's past was fully forgotten, or if it served as a constant, humbling reminder of God's unfathomable mercy. Her integration was not merely a matter of legalistic acceptance. It was a profound spiritual adoption, demonstrating that the lineage of faith is open to all who, like Rahab, turn their hearts fully towards the Almighty. Her life serves as a constant, echoing challenge to any who would seek to limit the reach of divine love or confine God's chosen vessels to predetermined categories. The shadow of the covenant, once exclusive, now expands to embrace all who dare to believe. You stand at the precipice of revelation, looking across the vast expanse of centuries, as the scarlet thread of Rahab's legacy weaves itself inextricably into the very fabric of salvation history. Her son, Boaz, whose birth marked the initial, profound integration of a Gentile into the Israelite lineage, grew into a man of unimpeachable character, a pillar of his community, radiating a wisdom and compassion that seems to echo the very grace that ensnared his mother's heart. You witness his story unfold, not as a mere historical anecdote, but as a continuation of Rahab's audacious faith. Boaz, a wealthy and influential landowner, extends an extraordinary kindness to another Gentile woman, Ruth, a Moabitess who, much like Rahab, had chosen to abandon her pagan past and embrace the God of Israel. You see the divine orchestration at play, a pattern emerging. God is not bound by human distinctions, but seeks out and elevates those with a heart truly devoted to Him, regardless of their origin or past. The story of Boaz and Ruth is not merely a romance. It is a profound theological narrative, reiterating Rahab's radical inclusion, demonstrating God's unwavering commitment to His covenant, even as He expands its embrace to the unlikeliest of souls. Their union, born of faithfulness and redemptive love, produces Obed, and Obed, in turn, fathers Jesse. You feel the weight of destiny settling upon you as you trace this lineage, knowing that from Jesse springs forth the Anointed One, David, the shepherd king, a man after God's own heart, destined to establish a kingdom that would echo through eternity. The bloodline of Rahab, the Canaanite harlot, now courses through the veins of the greatest king Israel would ever know, the very progenitor of the Davidic dynasty. This, you realize, is not just a historical detail. It is a profound theological statement, a testament to God's unparalleled ability to take the seemingly broken, the outcast, the religiously unclean, and make them foundational stones in His grand design. For centuries, the devout have pondered the very nature of God's election. Is it purely based on pre-existing merit, or is there a sovereign, surprising grace that transcends all human categories? The story of Rahab, deeply embedded in the lineage of kings, profoundly challenges any narrow, rigid interpretation of divine election, pushing you to grasp a more expansive, mysterious understanding of God's ways. You are now brought to the moment of ultimate revelation, a moment that would have sent shockwaves through any first-century Jewish community, a detail that many still gloss over without fully grasping its profound implications. You open the ancient scroll of Matthew's Gospel, the very first book of the New Testament, and you read the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God. You trace the names: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, Perez, Hezron, Ram, Amminadab, Nahshon, Salmon, and then with breathtaking clarity you see it. Salmon begot Boaz by Rahab, and again later, Boaz begot Obed by Ruth. Two Gentile women, Rahab a former harlot from a condemned nation, and Ruth a Moabitess, forbidden by Mosaic law from even entering the assembly of the Lord, are explicitly named in the sacred lineage of the Christ, the promised Redeemer of Israel and the world. This is not merely an inclusion, it is a declaration. It is a divine endorsement of boundless grace, a prophetic foreshadowing of a kingdom that would ultimately break down every wall of partition, inviting Jew and Gentile, slave and free, male and female, into one body through faith. It shatters the preconceived notions of purity and lineage that had been so carefully guarded for millennia. You are forced to confront the immense audacity of God's plan, a plan so magnificent it deliberately subverts human expectations and cultural biases. Why would Matthew, writing primarily to a Jewish audience, include Rahab's name, knowing the potential controversy and challenge it presented to traditional Jewish sensibilities? Because her inclusion was not an oversight, but a deliberate, powerful message. It affirmed that the Messiah's lineage was not solely one of human perfection or uninterrupted piety, but one marked by divine mercy, by the transformative power of redemption, reaching into the very heart of human brokenness and bringing forth glory. Her story, once seemingly a footnote to the fall of Jericho, now stands as a monumental cornerstone in the very foundation of the Christian faith, a testament to the universality of God's redemptive purpose. This challenges you to ask, what does it truly mean to be chosen in God's eyes? Is it birthright, or is it the posture of a surrendered heart, regardless of where that heart originates? Ancient rabbinic traditions, though not canonical scripture, offer fascinating insights into how Rahab's story resonated and was interpreted over time. Some traditions, like those found in Sefer Devarim and parts of the Talmud, elevate Rahab beyond merely a survivor, portraying her as a woman of immense spiritual depth, even suggesting that she fully converted to Judaism and became a prophetess, marrying Joshua himself in some accounts. Though this is not supported by the biblical text itself, it speaks to the high regard in which her faith came to be held. These narratives, whether literal or allegorical, underscore the profound impact of her radical choice and the way her story defied conventional understanding of who could truly enter into God's covenant. Josephus, while not dwelling on Rahab's lineage specifically, broadly presents God's dealings with humanity as encompassing both strict justice and profound mercy, a framework into which Rahab's deliverance and subsequent elevation fit perfectly. The very act of Rahab, a Canaanite woman, being woven into the tapestry of the Messiah's ancestry, fundamentally reshapes humanity's understanding of grace. It declares that God's love is not confined by human-drawn lines, that his transformative power transcends all perceived boundaries of race, gender, or past. The enduring legacy of Rahab is not merely that she survived the fall of Jericho or that she appears in a genealogy. Her legacy is the profound, timeless truth that God's covenant reaches beyond the expected, beyond the pure, beyond the privileged, embracing those who, with a simple act of faith, declare their allegiance to him. She stands as an eternal beacon, challenging every generation to dismantle their own preconceived notions of who God can use, who God can save, and who is truly in. Her scarlet thread, once a sign of physical deliverance, transforms into a powerful symbol of the blood of the ultimate covenant, the blood of Christ, which redeems all who believe, regardless of their past or origin. You are left with the undeniable truth that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God who brought down the walls of Jericho, is a God whose mercy triumphs over judgment, and whose plan of salvation encompasses all humanity, beginning with the unexpected grace shown to a woman named Rahab from the city of destruction. Her story is a testament to the sovereign, inclusive, and utterly astounding nature of divine love, inviting you to see the world and God's interaction with it through new, profoundly expanded eyes. The story of Rahab, often relegated to a footnote in the epic fall of Jericho, explodes into a central pillar of divine revelation when viewed through the lens of eternity. You have journeyed beyond the crumbling walls, beyond the immediate triumph, to witness an audacious act of grace that redefined lineage, shattered prejudices, and laid the groundwork for the most pivotal event in human history. Rahab the Harlot, the Canaanite, becomes an ancestress of kings, and ultimately of the King of Kings. Her scarlet thread, a symbol of physical deliverance, transforms into the very crimson stream of redemption that flows from the cross, binding all who believe into one sacred family. This profound mystery forces us to confront the boundless nature of God's love, a love that sees beyond the facade of human status, beyond the stained reputation, beyond the ethnic divide, to the flickering ember of faith within a surrendered heart. Her story is not just ancient history. It is a living, breathing testament to the truth that no one is beyond the reach of divine mercy, no past too dark to be redeemed, no outsider too distant to be drawn into the very heart of God's covenant. It is a radical, unsettling, and ultimately glorious truth that compels us to re-examine our own judgments, our own limitations, and to marvel at the infinite wisdom of a God whose ways are indeed higher than our ways, and whose plan of salvation is far more expansive than we could ever conceive. The forgotten story of Rahab's family and legacy is, in fact, the unforgettable story of God's scandalous grace, echoing through the ages, proclaiming that in Christ, the walls of division have fallen